Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. We're going to start off our meeting of the Electoral Board with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will have words of welcome. So I ask you to stand as you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. My name is David Newmeyer. I am the chair of the Electoral Board. To my right is Steve Troxel, who is the vice chair, and Betty Gibbs, who is the secretary of the Electoral Board. I wanted to explain to you before we get into our business today why we're in the city council chambers. And in past years, we've often had either 0 members of the public or just a few. This year, we've gathered a lot more attention. Apparently, movies have gotten too expensive, so now we're a source of entertainment. But we welcome everyone who likes to observe and be here in person. We thought this meeting was going to be live streamed on Facebook. It turned out it is not, but a recording will be available for anyone who's unable to be here today or wants us to see it afterwards. And this meeting room of the City Council chambers has a lot of advantages for us. As you can see, not only a lot more space, but a good sound system as well. So we're grateful to the City Council and City Clerk for allowing us to use this. Wanted to comment also why there is a police presence. This is a first for us, at least in my tenure. You will recall that we have rules of procedure, and in April we amended our rules of procedure, particularly to include some sections about conduct in meetings. And what we said and have in those rules of procedure regarding public participation are that statements by everyone present should be directed to the policies, procedures, and work by which the Electoral Board implements state and federal election laws. Personal criticism of the motives or behavior of anyone, whether present or not, is always out of order, whether criticism is expressed by words, noise, or other behavior. Violators of these rules will receive a warning from the presiding officer upon the first offense in any meeting and are subject to ejectment from the meeting by the presiding officer upon further offenses. This is similar to the statement that the mayor reads at the beginning of city council meetings, which that statement says that citizens often express conflicting and diverse positions regarding specific issues under consideration. To encourage citizen participation and to avoid intimidation to persons who may express sometimes unpopular opinions, applause, cheers, or jeers from the audience are not permitted. When appearing before City Council, citizens may not engage in behavior that intimidates or insults others, engage in disruptive behavior, use profanity or vulgar language, promote private business ventures, or campaign for office. And those rules are relevant for us because we are here to discuss policies and procedures by which we implement the state laws regarding conduct of elections. And we violate those rules when we get emotional, we raise our voices, when we interrupt or verbally attack individuals. And we've had some of those instances in the last couple of meetings. As a result, some people in the room feel unsafe. And I will be using my gavel today to interrupt any speaker who's out of order. And if any person continues to interrupt our conduct of business, they will be asked to leave. In terms of the business that we conduct today, I suspect that many people are here regarding the hiring of a registrar for the next 4 years. So we will vote on that early in the agenda and then pause to allow people who are here only for that purpose to leave if they so desire. And we will not have a long agenda, by the way, today. I expected us to spend a fair amount of time on the electoral board manual, but it appears that none of us brought copies of the electoral board manual that we're considering. So we will take that up in our July meeting instead. So we will also have our traditional public comment period at the end of the meeting. Anyone may speak once for up to 3 minutes or 5 minutes if representing a group. We will ask speakers to come up to the microphone that's in front of the dais here to introduce yourself, and if you're here on behalf of a group, to identify the group that you're here on behalf of. So that's how we're going to proceed today. And I think we are ready to start our business conduct. And our first item is the approval of the agenda for today. Is there any amendment to the agenda we need to consider? If not, if there's no objection, I'll consider the agenda adopted as proposed. The next 5 items are approval of minutes of 4 closed meetings and 1 open meeting. Even when we meet in closed session, the Freedom of Information Act requires us to start with a public session and then go into closed session, and when we come out to certify that all we discussed in the closed session was what we said we were going to discuss, which according to Freedom of Information Act is basically either personnel issues or computer security issues. So I'd like to take up those sets of minutes all as one block. I think all amendments have been finished for those. So I'd like to ask my colleagues for a motion to approve the minutes as one block.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, and the minutes are all approved. Next item is motions offered in closed session. A closed session that we did have recently was to consider candidates for the registrar office. I'm sure everyone's aware that the board advertised for applicants for the registrar position. The Code of Virginia provides that registrars have a term of office of 4 years. They all run at the same time, and statewide, they all finish on June 30th of this year. And it is my belief that our obligation is to consider first the registrar we have. I believe the applicable case law and advice of our city attorney, as I explained in our May meeting, are that a government employee in long-term employment who has received positive evaluations and has been executing their job faithfully is entitled to basically continue in that position or some expectation of being able to continue in that position. We have received in middle of May an opinion from the Attorney General saying that electoral boards at the end of the 4-year term are free to consider anybody that they want, but cannot replace someone for impermissible reasons. And impermissible reasons are basically, the ones that are most clearly established are for political considerations. Would be a violation of the First Amendment to condition employment of this job on someone's belief in one political party or another. And there have been past litigation in Lynchburg in the 1990s and other parts of Virginia since then on this issue. And so that's my belief what we should be doing now. The majority of the board voted to accept applications for registrar and to interview 4 applicants, including the current registrar. That took place a couple weeks ago. And in closed session, the majority of the board chose which candidate they thought was best suited for the position. So that's what we're going to consider right now. And I want to ask Mr. Troxel if he wants to make a motion to that effect.
We, excuse me, over the course of the application opening period, we received 33 applications. Many from Lynchburg, many from around the state, at least 4 from out of state, and 1 from Malawi and Africa. So kudos to our HR department for getting the word out. The breadth of applications so far as the quality of the applicants and their ability to do this job was quite wide. We were able to quickly eliminate over half of them, and then we worked down to who we thought were the best applicants. We interviewed 4 of them. And let me just say that I think every member of this board has great respect for each other, even though we disagree on some things. And, I will make the motion, and after we have dealt with the motion, then I would like to take another brief minute to introduce the applicant that was chosen. And so my motion is to appoint Daniel Pence as registrar for the next 4-year term.
I second that.
Okay, before we vote, I'm going to telling you, the public, that I will be voting against the motion for the reasons I just explained. It's nothing about the candidate personally. I think the city attorney has strongly warned us in several written memos that we risk a lawsuit, a First Amendment lawsuit, by taking this course, and I fully expect that to happen. So that is, if you would like more detail about that, I'd be glad to share it with you after the meeting or by email, whatever. So that's why I'll be voting against the motion. Is there any other discussion of the motion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. That is me. And that concludes the vote. The motion is adopted. Steve, did you want to say anything else?
Yes, I do. Dan is here today. Dan, would you please stand up? I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dan. He has a strong track record of building, managing, and retaining world-class customer service teams. Proven project manager, leading divergent stakeholders to successful consensus. Practiced in data management and visualization techniques using tools like Excel, Tableau, ClickView, Visokio, and is an expert user of a broad range of core technologies, office and database programs. Up until now, he's been working with a company called Espro as Products and Strategic Solutions Manager. Prior to that, he worked for Morgan Stanley as an Executive Director and Global Head of Electronic Trading Onboarding, managing a budget of $15 million and a term of 30 people in New York, Montreal, London, Budapest, Bangalore, Shanghai, Tokyo, and Hong Kong. Prior to that, he worked for Credit Suisse as a vice president, and United Bank of Scotland at their offices in Stamford, Connecticut. And having talked with all of the candidates and knowing that people can go very highly, thank you, Dan, people that are very highly talented can move sideways and do an amazing job when they do that. I'm quite pleased for the city of Lynchburg that we have asked Dan to come on board.
Thank you, Steve. At this time, I'd like to take a pause. If there's anyone who came only for this matter of business and would like to leave, you feel free to do so now. Otherwise, we will continue. Our next item of business is announcements. I have one announcement, which is that I will be out of town for the date of our regular, what would be our regular August meeting, the first week of August, and I've just discussed that with my colleagues. We're not sure whether we would need an August meeting, so we will determine within the next 6 weeks, I think, whether or not we need an August meeting, and if so, we will announce a new date for that, but we will not be meeting on the first Thursday in August. Does the registrar have any announcements?
No announcements.
Okay, next item is the registrar's report, and Chris, would you please lead us through that?
The office will be closed on Monday, June 19th, for Juneteenth. I have given the board the voting system security program, which needs your edits and approval at a future electoral board meeting. So you need to go through that and edit as needed. We also need to calendar the voting equipment walkthrough. That would be a closed meeting at the office to go through the voting equipment and just do the walkthrough for that. And then I have also given you a draft officer of election manual for the board to view and edit and approve at a future meeting.
Thank you. And I've asked Amy Mayer if she would just give a verbal rundown of how she assembled that. So Amy, would you come to the microphone? They turn it on for you. Start talking.
When I do the manuals, I look at all the documents that the state compiles and sends out, and I also reach out to other localities, or in this case, Christine had reached out to them, and I collect the ones that best apply to the practices that we follow in the office, which follow what the law states, and then I just put them in a cohesive document that seems to make sense and follows our typical procedures, and make it all look the same.
Okay, thank you. For members of the public, we are in the process of creating manuals for each of the position within the registrar's office and for officers of election, chiefs, assistant chiefs. So everyone has a clear definition of what their responsibilities are. And we have also created some training materials online that's available to the public. So officers of election and members of the public can understand the training that everyone needs in order to operate a precinct. And so these are all public materials. If you'd like to read or watch anything, you're welcome to. Any questions? Steve or Betty? Okay. Thank you very much, Amy. We will take up the election office official manual after we read it and bring our copies to the next meeting.
I have one question for the registrar.
Please go ahead.
At the last meeting, there was a comment about a grant proposal for security cameras, and I was just curious if you had any update on that grant proposal or whether the window has even opened yet.
The window has opened for that, and I have met with the grant supervisor under the emergency management to begin discussing that. They suggested that we not only do the security cameras, but also the security measures inside the lobby. I need to get a quote for making sure that the counter is secure. That was suggested by Jamie Finney of Homeland Security and CISA. And so I'm in the process of obtaining that. I have asked the people in the city who's in charge of that to do that. And in the plant maintenance office, Michael Bodner is his name. And then the contractor was in the office earlier this week, and he said he would get a quote to me later so that we can include it, and it closes in July, the end of July.
Okay, thank you.
Our first item of old business was the electoral board. I'm sorry, Betty, go ahead.
Did you bring us the, this registrant count by locality?
I forgot to.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Can you
There's a
email?
lot going on in the office,
Can
and
you
I
email
failed to do that.
us?
I can email it to you electronically.
Our first order of old business, as I mentioned earlier, was consideration of the electoral board manual, which none of us brought. So we will postpone that till July. The second is amendment of our rules of procedure that we adopted in April, and want to address those right now. Section Roman numeral 4 about citizen participation proposed an amendment to the first sentence, which currently reads, members of the public will be invited to comment during a comment period at the end of a meeting for up to 3 minutes per person. We did not state whether a person is allowed to speak multiple times for a total of 3 minutes, or whether that is in fact just one appearance. And I think it's preference of the electoral board, so we don't have to track each speaker second by second, that we would just allow one comment each. So that it would now read, members of the public will be invited to comment once each during a comment period, et cetera. Second amendment is just a correct, two missing words at the end of the last bullet in section 4. It reads, the registrar, deputy registrars, precinct chiefs, and assistant chiefs are not considered members of the public in this context and may speak at the discretion of the presiding officer during, and that's where our rule stops. So a meeting are the two missing words. So I'm proposing that we add those two words there. So those are my proposals. I'd like to move that the board adopt those two
I
changes.
think you can do that without objection.
But I'd like to have it anyway.
You would like to have a motion?
I would like to hear you say yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I make that motion.
All right, thank
I
you.
will second that
Okay,
motion.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ayes, ayes have it, and that's adopted. Thank you. So our next segment then, before we start a public comment section, I just want to mention that today may be the last meeting that Christine Gibbons attends as our registrar. Her term ends on June 30th. And I want to thank her for 4 years of, I think, truly, 5 years, thank you. I think we started you prior to the 4-year term, of 5 years of dedicated service in a very difficult position. And I know that you have worked many nights, weekends, responded in the middle of the night to fire and other alarms that have gone off in our building on Kemper Street, and had to show up to deal with what may turn out to be nothing or could be something. The election process is very demanding for everybody who runs it, especially as during the voting period and on election day, the hours are long and tensions can be high sometime. And I think Christine has conducted herself professionally and supported fair and accurate voting in the city of Lynchburg, and I want to thank her for her service. So we're ready for public comments now. If you would like to make a comment, please hold up your hand. I will call on you and ask you to come up to the microphone in front of me. Jeff, I saw your hand first, so please come up. Yes.
Okay, I want to express appreciation for the members of the public who have attended and have spoken at this meeting and at other meetings. And I want to express the hope that they continue to do so, because now the need is even greater. That is, there is a need now not only to hold the board accountable, but also to hold the new registrar accountable. And that need to hold the new registrar accountable did not exist to the same extent before. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine, do you want to be heard?
Yes. Yes. I just want to read to the public what I gave the board during my interview, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
I am writing to request that the board approve my reappointment as Lynchburg's registrar. I have been in this position for 5 years. I have completed my national certification for election officials, conducted 11 elections, improved training for officers of election, and have been a good supervisor and leader for elections for the city of Lynchburg. I am conscientious about my job and all the responsibilities it entails. I believe I have treated the electoral board and its members fairly and with professionalism. I believe that to help our work move forward constructively and efficiently, discussions on allocation of duties between board members and the registrar's office should occur. In fact, the General Registrar Electoral Board Handbook says such allocation and delegation of duties should be discussed each year. Maybe working together to come up with a plan will help diffuse any tension there may be between the board and myself. I am fully committed to doing all we can together to make our election processes as secure, transparent, legally correct, and fair to all voters as possible, and I pledge my best efforts toward that goal. Finally, in support of my reappointment, I state emphatically that I have conducted myself in a nonpartisan manner in the face of relentless attacks on my character and neutrality in the office. I believe I have shown to the public and the board my ability to continue to manage the office and the position of the Director of Elections and General Registrar. And I gave an attachment of all my strengths and also the goals and summary that I accomplished over the years and my evaluations. I wanted to address just briefly the relentless attacks on my character. I feel I have been attacked for the last 5 years that I have been in this role. There have been people even in this room in previous board meetings who have brought up questions after questions after questions, and not once did I ask for police presence to be there. Not once did I have concern that I had a sign put in front of my home that affected not just me, but my family, that said I need to be locked up and put in jail. And I appreciate the time that I have been the registrar, the relationships I have built with my colleagues and officers of election, and I thank the board.
Thank you. Sir, the cap, go ahead. And could you identify yourself?
Yes, my name is James Arnold. My wife, Linda B. Arnold, was registrar in the city of Lynchburg for 12 years. And she was replaced or removed illegally, and she filed a lawsuit in 1995. And she was victorious in her lawsuit. She served the city of Lynchburg very conscientiously. She increased voter registration throughout the city. She did a wonderful job, and she was the first certified general registrar in the state of Virginia. But she was, after serving diligently for all those 12 years, she was still illegally removed as a result of a 5-day trial. The court ruled in her favor that she was illegally removed. My question to this board I know you're not going to answer me publicly right now, is what are the grounds or reasons for replacing a qualified, well-meaning, great registrar that we have to bring someone that's not involved, have not been involved with registration ever, and remove someone with the qualifications that our current general registrar have? Would you be willing to answer that question, board? Would you? Thank you. I didn't think you would. But please consider this. This will not be the last thing that you're going to hear about this matter. Thanks.
Please hold the applause. Carl Hutchison, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My comments are not quite as controversial at this point. However, we will be presenting for your information in the not too distant future that will address some of the problems that we've been confronted with. My question is this: is the board following the pattern of Lynchburg City Council by saying 3 minutes per citizen for public speaking?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I know you represent the Voters League and the NAACP, so we would give you 5 minutes.
Right. I think the public needs to know that if you represent a group or an organization, you do receive 5 minutes from council.
Yes.
And I would hope that we would at least get 5 minutes from this board. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Sharon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I'm Sharon Simpson, Lynchburg resident. So I just have a few questions, and as Mr. Hutchison has said, I may not get the answers today, but I do need to ask them. When I was at a city council meeting, I asked about the secretary of this board. When were they vetted? Who vetted them? I'm still waiting on an answer for that. And just want to make sure that we are following procedures here, because we're expected to follow procedures, and I think this board should do the same. I want to know what recourse does our current registrar have? And I've heard all of what everybody else said. And I want to know, what deliverables does Mr. Pence have? He's not from this city, so I know how difficult the job of the registrar, assistant registrar, and all the office personnel. So I want to know, what are his deliverables? I know you read a whole plethora of things that he's done and places he's been, but what does he know about Lynchburg, and how will he operate that facility so that we don't go backwards? Because it's a huge job. And I think I've asked all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Carl Connor.
My name is Carl Connor. It has come to my attention that I was referenced in unrevised minutes of the electoral board meeting dated May the 2nd, 2023 by Betty Gibbs. I have the right to respond.
Carl, okay. I'm going to ask you not to attack individuals by name.
Okay.
You go ahead and talk about the
No
minutes. And I'll mention that I think you're talking about an earlier draft of minutes that was not adopted.
Fine. It was stated in a letter to some city council meetings that they felt threatened, and the last meeting was abruptly adjourned because of violation of the code.
Okay. Those are no longer, that sentence is no longer in the minutes.
Okay? But I get it, especially when a black man voices his First Amendment right of speech. That is simply a dog whistle for racism, white privilege, and white supremacy. In terms of an act of physical harm towards anyone, I'll leave that for the KKK, the Proud Boys, and those that run around with face coverings because they are ashamed of what they represent. These are your children's teachers, co-workers, and registrar board members. Do not get it twisted. I'm not a 1960s Negro marching and singing, "We shall overcome." We exercise our Second Amendment rights just like you. The secretary should not feel threatened. Instead, she should feel shameful. Feel shameful that you attended this January 6th riot.
Carl,
When
Carl, I am going to interrupt you. Okay, you're directing comments against a specific member of the board, and that violates our rules of procedure, okay? This is my last warning. If you continue in this vein, I'm going to ask you to leave.
Christine Givens was chosen because of her education, her experience, and integrity. Vengeance has been placed on her. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, Romans 12:19. And I don't need anyone from Bedford County to quote scripture to me. I'm not illiterate nor a slave that's unable to read and comprehension. Mrs. Gibbons has been treated nothing but rude, disrespectful, dishonest, with accusatory accusations. There have been attempts to overthrow the government, and now here we are in Lynchburg wreaking havoc on the registrar's office here in Lynchburg. And that's only a small part of what's going on. I warn this city that what is happening is that they want to remove all persons. This is through city council and through this registrar's office, to remove all persons of color and anyone does not go along with that far-right agenda in the city. We hear that the next step is to move to elected school board officials.
Carl,
this means voting.
I'm going to have to interrupt you. You've exceeded the 3 minutes, and that's what we allow per person that's not representing a group. So thank you very much for your comments. No applause, please. Sir, with your hand up. Sir.
Mr. Arnold, can you assist me to the podium? Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. To my esteemed,
Could you identify yourself, please?
first, my name is Reverend Alex Cunningham. Preside in Ward 2. I have come to these meetings ever since it has started. And for some reason, it seems that not only you overruled, but here it is, we done had an applicant that nobody know anything about. But you read a resume. I never heard whether he was part of Lynchburg. But in the midst of all of that, I keep on seeing within our system of government how that we as people of color, some people don't want to hear that, are trying to dismiss what is right and lean to what is not right. There's all that Christine has done. She's more qualified probably than the one that you just said so moved. So in the midst of that, I hope Christine sue you. And I'm right there with her. I got about a few dollars. Sue them because they are not being straight up with us. They got an agenda. North Carolina, Bedford, Campbell County, all of them got an agenda. And they don't look like me.
Is there anyone else? Sir, in the back.
I'm Alan Trevziger of District 1, and my wife and I, we were poll watchers. And there were many people that came in that had no ID, and they said that they were going to vote, and they said they refused to have an ID. Now, for the last 10 years or so, I've been out of the country from 2010 to 2020. And our church was about a third African and a third European. It was a church of several thousand. When I told them that in America, many places, that we did not have voter ID, that you could vote without doing a voter ID, they laughed at me and called me a liar because they just thought that was incomprehensible, particularly my African friends. They thought that it was impossible to have a fair election without voter ID. Now, when we talked to the registrar about this, we thought, there's a problem here. What, do you check for the voter IDs? He goes, no, there's no problem. Well, to me, that means we need a new registrar and a complete change of who's running the election. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan.
My name is Jenny Hall. I'm a Lynchburg resident, and I also work as an assistant chief in our precincts during voting. And since this is Christine's last meeting, I wanted to thank her for all of her hard work. I'm a new person working in elections, and I've had a really great experience. Your hard work is noticed, at least by me, and all of the staff. So I want to thank you for the time that you've spent and put into training materials and taught me so that I can be a part of the process, because it's important to me to be a part of the voting process in my country. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I misnamed a precinct worker. Thank you, okay. Mr. Misdens. Could you introduce yourself, please?
I'm Marty Mischens. I'm a member of Lynchburg City Council, but I'm here speaking on behalf of myself as a citizen residing in Ward 3. First, I want to thank the board for the work you do. I know it's under scrutiny by a lot of folks on both sides, and I appreciate that because it's a tough position you're in. Second, I want to thank Christine for your service as the registrar in the city of Lynchburg, and whoever put that sign in your yard, that is absolutely, totally unacceptable. I want to make that crystal clear for everybody in this room, that whoever put that sign in your yard, that's absolutely, totally unacceptable. And I'm sorry for that somebody did that. But as such, we follow the will of the board. And I also want to congratulate Mr. Pence on his appointment. And my desire is that we expand the number of voters that we have in this city, that we increase registration, that we increase participation in our elections. And my expectation of the electoral board as a citizen is that you hold the new registrar accountable to do those things and to run honest, fair elections. That's my expectation, and I look forward to where this takes us, and I thank all of the public for being here to participate. Thank you.
Red t-shirt.
Good afternoon. My name is Howard White. I'm a lifelong Lynchburger. I'd just like to say, this election, it reeks of underhandedness for your choice for registrar. Here's a lady here that's been proven years and years and years. Then you bring in somebody with all these corporate qualifications, but I heard nothing about registrar and his qualifications. Now, if I wanted to hire somebody to paint my house, I certainly wouldn't hire somebody that doesn't know how to open a can of paint. So my point is, why would you move a qualified, proven person to bring somebody in that has a lot of corporate experience? Doesn't make sense.
Ma'am, hand up. Someone had their hand up where I'm pointing. I don't know who it was, okay? All right, sir.
My name is Jack Underwood. I am the 4th Ward Chair for the Lynchburg Democratic Party. The Electoral Board has not followed proper procedure. A proper evaluation of Ms. Gibbons should have been done in proper order. Mr. Pence worked for the United Bank of Scotland. It should be known that United Bank of Scotland is known for banking secrecy and has been the center of numerous tax avoidance investigations undertaken by the U.S., French, German, Israeli, and Belgian governments. Ms. Gibbons does not have such an employer in her resume. Thank you very much.
We have a hand up over here. Good.
Good afternoon. My name is Josh McCracken. I am an assistant chief with the Board of Elections. My mistake there. And I would like to congratulate Mr. Pence on his appointment to the general registrar position. I am very impressed by your resume, sir, and I look forward to serving you and continuing to serve the board. With that said, I do disagree with the board's decision to not reappoint Ms. Gibbons. I believe that she has served very faithfully, and I have always been impressed by just her sense of duty and her commitment to her work. I unfortunately do believe that there was biases in this decision. I do not know whether that is intentional or unintentional, but it seems to be very clear that there was a sense to replace all the members who were not adhering to a certain political view. I would support an investigation into this, whether that may or may not involve a lawsuit that obviously has yet to be determined, but I would be in favor of reappointing Ms. Gibbons if that is in the cards. Thank you for your time, and thank you for having us here at the City Hall. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has not been heard that would like to be heard? In the back row.
My name is Kelly Ward, and I just want to know what happened to my city. What happened to progressive Lynchburg? I can't believe this is happening. We are becoming Buckingham County. We will be on the NBC Nightly News. This is not fair. It's not transparent. I am very disappointed.
My name is Joshua Pratt. I'm a resident of Lynchburg, and I'm also a representative for Virginians for America First. What happened to Lynchburg, to answer the question that just happened, is November. November just happened. And in November, the people elected a conservative majority to serve this community. They were elected by the people in a democratic election run by Ms. Gibbons and her office. So that is what happened to Lynchburg. The people chose to bring about a new leadership to our city because mostly of the type of leadership that had been in our city for the past 20 years. Under the law, the Electoral Board, as you know, changes seats when the governor's political party changes. We hear talk that this is a nonpartisan office. Yet, today, I see here representatives of the Lynchburg Democrat Party. I see representatives of the NAACP. I see representatives of the Voters League in support of Christine's remaining registrar. So I have to ask myself, is this now political? Why would they be so interested in maintaining her on the board? In 2021, Virginians for America First conducted a survey of all registrars in the Commonwealth. Your office, upon missing one appointment, refused to reschedule with us.
Absolutely.
Okay, no, we are not, stop, we are not going to have a personal argument. Mr. Pratt, I'm directing you to not to address argument.
I can't hear you, they're talking.
Okay, I need order first. I need silence.
I'm sorry, sir,
Thank you.
what was that?
Thank you, okay. I'm directing you not to address remarks directly at Ms. Gibbons.
I understand, thank you, my apology.
Thank you.
Our organization conducted investigations and inquiries into all registrars' offices within the Commonwealth of Virginia. Overwhelmingly, we discovered that registrars were not doing their jobs according to the law. Many answered our questionnaires saying, I was unaware of the law. I do believe recently I heard, and I was unaware in the law just recently. I want to address one thing that I just heard here. Is it my understanding that Christine had just said that she's never called the police to be an electoral board meeting?
Once again, we're not going to address
asking the
individuals.
question.
Okay, you heard our rules, okay? We are not going to address individuals.
Last year, the Electoral Board, under Democrat leadership, sought to have the police department come in. They spoke, the chief of police spoke. He also brought his command staff to the meeting. I was there. I believe Mayor Hutchison was there as well. And during that meeting, the Office of the Registrar sought policing and arresting rights. That is not the responsibility of a registrar to have arresting rights, claiming fear for their safety. So the answer to the question is yes, police have been called in. And yes, police have been asked to give authority to the registrar's office, which is not the authority of the registrar to have arresting powers because people feel unsafe. I want to thank you for your service, Ms. Gibbs, Mr. Troxel, and for standing up and taking the pressure that's coming from members of the community.
Mr. Pratt, your time is up. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're done. You're done. Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. They're still talking.
Are you representing a group?
Yes, I was.
I'm sorry. You have 2 more minutes.
Thank you so much. I have 2 more minutes.
Please address the board.
The clock is running. Okay, thank you.
2 more minutes. Through our investigations throughout the Commonwealth, we discovered throughout the entire electoral system in the Commonwealth of Virginia areas of infiltration where fraud has happened in our election system. These efforts have been brought to members of the registrars throughout the Commonwealth to bring about discovery to try and close some of these gaps and loopholes that are in election law. Registrars have the authority to conduct the election in any manner that they see fit in agreement with the Electoral Board. So, for example, this city could run a paper-only, hand-counted election at the discretion of the registrar. We, the people, will only know for certain if the election is truly being counted correctly, if ballots are filled out, maybe put a purple fingerprint on it, and count them by hand. We will know who truly wins and have no suspicion that machines are incorrectly counting the ballots. I do not know the gentleman that you all have recommended, but according to the resume I just heard, he sounds like a person that knows machines, hardware, business machines quite well. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you all. Thank you for the consideration of removing and appointing a new registrar based on my opinion and the opinion of the Virginians for America First, that she is unqualified.
Stop, okay, you're done. You're done. Goodbye. Thank you. You're done. You're done. Okay, no, you just had your last warning. I said, no more. Okay. Mr. Pratt, you may leave. So, anyone else would like to be heard? Okay, I don't see. I'm sorry, where?
Lady on the aisle halfway back.
Ah, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Lynn Feynman. I'm a citizen of Lynchburg and an election official. I would like to refer you to the experience of Fox News and their experience with doubting the accuracy of election machines. I would also like to thank Christine again and the entire registrar's office for everything you've done for the city of Lynchburg. You've gone above and beyond. You've taught me so much, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I don't see any other hands, so, sir.
Hello, I'm F.J. Jalil, Ward 3, and I'd like to say that I was an election official, and I pretty much had a good time the whole last couple of years. So thank you for your service, Ms. Christine. And I have enough experience to see that there's a lot of tension and a lot of things going on here, but you know, things change. And before I go on, I have a question specifically, but I would like to welcome Mr. Pence. Hope you do well. We're all looking forward to being a part of that. But I do want to mention there's a couple of instances where people are moved out of their positions suddenly, whether one way or another. And there's a great book. Whenever you have that occurrence, you should look up this book called Who Moved My Cheese? And this book called Who Moved My Cheese is a great little story. And it's so impactful, it's sad, it's happy, and it can give perspective on when these types of things happen. Because there's a perspective from the front, there's a perspective from the side, a perspective from over here, and a perspective from those watching perhaps online. And they all don't always intersect very well. But if you get on the same page, you can understand things a little bit better. On a separate issue, my question would be, if you have a draft of the electoral manual that you're going to publish, and it's electronic, if you would please put in the draft a place where you can add a sticky note for feedback. That's something that I like to do if you are going to do that before you publish it. That's just a little request to see if you would do that. But otherwise, I'd say that I'm thankful for being here, involved in the electoral process for the city of Lynchburg, and I hope everyone would be a part of that in a positive, productive way. Take care.
Thank you.
Good evening.
My name is Malcolm Miles. I'm a resident of Lynchburg. And I agree with, well, first of all, there's a lot of tension in the room. And I want to say also that everyone has that tension because they believe very strongly that what they feel is real and authentic and true. But what I also want to say is that the reason that I am standing here is because I had no desire to speak tonight. I'm a shy introvert. I was just going to sit there and listen and hear about what was happening, and if I felt strongly enough, stand up and say something. And here's the time. This year was the first year that I've ever been a part of this process. With all the tension in the world, I wanted to be a part. I wanted to see for myself what all the noise was about in terms of election interference. So I went and I volunteered. I said I must be a part of this. And I can tell you from my perspective, this election was incredibly well run, was incredibly apolitical. And I can tell you that everybody that was working at the poll had their own point of view, felt just as strongly in their position as the other people, and I guarantee you we didn't all feel the same. I know that because we talked about it. But I think everybody who has such hard positions should volunteer at the poll. Once. You will see that there is nothing happening at that poll that you need to be concerned about. The polls, the elections were working incredibly well. You have well-meaning people that are doing their best to make sure we have strong and fair elections. There is nothing that was gone wrong at that election that we needed to remove someone over. I don't know anything about the politics. I just know what I saw and what everyone else that worked at my voting booth or my voting precinct saw. I thank you very much for everything that you and your office did. Everyone in this room, I appreciate that everyone has a different point of view. Come and volunteer. You'll see that there's nothing to be concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I think we're done. Nope, there's another hand in the back.
Good afternoon. My name is Angela Kidd. I am an election official. I've had great pleasure working as an election official under Christine. And I want to say thank you to her and everybody that works in the registrar's office. I want to say also, I was just reading an article about her interview. And the first thing that struck me is that I don't feel like anybody was qualified enough to interview her for that position, because some of the people interviewing her actually had to talk to her to work as election officials. So I don't understand how you can interview somebody for a position that you have to ask her questions about how to do the job, number one. Number two, the gentleman back there was saying that this is supposed to be bipartisan, but the NAACP and everybody here was here to support Christine. They're here to support Christine, and I'll tell you why they're here to support Christine. Because they know that she is impartial. They know that she considers everyone and everything when she does her job. She is fair. They know that she worked very hard to make sure that every precinct was equally maintained and keeping it fair for everybody. They know it, they understand it, and because she didn't bow down to what other people wanted or she supported fairness, I believe that's the main reason why they want her out, and it's not fair. And I want to say thank you, Christine. The gentleman walked away and he gave a power to the people sign. It was mockery. It was mockery. It was totally disrespectful. And that's why he did it.
Dr. Troxel would like to be heard.
I'm assuming we are at the end of public comment.
Are there any more members of the public who have not had a chance to be heard yet? Mr. Pratt, we've already heard from you. I'm sorry. I thought you were headed this way. Okay, it appears to me that we've heard from all the members of the public who want to speak. So go ahead.
The reason that I have sat here stone-faced, as somebody called it, was because several meetings ago, I attempted to address a concern that someone made, and I was shouted down so that I was purposely kept from being heard. So following that incident, I decided, okay, I'm not even going to attempt to be heard because apparently somebody doesn't want me to be heard. Second point, just for the record, voter ID laws are not something that is the purview of the registrar. That is something for the General Assembly. So if you don't like the voter ID laws, you need to talk to the General Assembly. We have had that discussion numerous times, and the registrar does what the law says, and voter ID is what it is because of the General Assembly, not because of the registrar. And finally, Dan Pence has been a resident of Lynchburg for several years. He works remotely with one of his companies, and I do believe that he is aware of the culture and the lifestyle of Lynchburg, and I think he has already fit in very well. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Steve. I think with that, we're done for this evening. I thank you all very much for being here with us and your interest in our electoral process. We are adjourned.